To us, the night sky is a fascinating spectacle. To our ancestors, it was the key to their survival.
They had to understand these patterns in order to do the planning they needed to survive as a culture.
It was this relationship with the heavens that led to some of mankind's greatest discoveries and creations.
We built our largest monuments, things like Stonehenge, the pyramids. They're aligned to the stars, they're related to them.
These masterpieces were created with such perfection that some believe the ancients had divine help from above.
Our ancestors built the pyramids with the assistance of the guardians of the sky, otherwise referred to as the gods.
Over thousands of years, there have been many scientific discoveries. But it was these first observations of the cosmos that put us on the path to modern civilization. In this program, we're going to see why looking up all those thousands of years ago sowed the seeds for civilization. We'll start in the distant past to see how the skies gave us our first clocks and calendars. We'll see how this predictability of time gave the ancients a chance to focus less on survival and more on cultivating society. The skies began to take on religious significance, and the stars were used to explore new worlds. Scientists are still using some of those navigational techniques today to explore space. And finally, we'll delve into the deep mysteries that still surround our ancestors' worship of the skies, like theories of ancient astronauts visiting our planet. We're about to unravel how the ancients decoded the skies. Today, if we want to know the time, we look at a watch. For the date, we look at a calendar. We know it's autumn because of a new TV schedule. Some might know it's spring because certain sports seasons are beginning. The skies don't mean that much to us anymore.
It's kind of ironic that today we don't have to pay that much attention to astronomy in our daily lives. We don't have to worry about exactly how many days are in the calendar and all that, because we've already figured that out. And we figured that out because the Mayans figured it out. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans figured that kind of stuff out. So our daily lives depend on what these ancient civilizations did.
It's a good thing our ancestors studied the skies, because nowadays some of us don't even look up anymore. That was made clear in the hours after the Northridge earthquake in 1994.
The earthquake had knocked out all the lights of Los Angeles. It was dark like it's never been in Southern California. We started getting calls from people who wanted to know what was that peculiar, odd sky that they saw.
People were phoning the Griffith Observatory with reports of strange lights in the sky. Thousands of them.
We had no idea what people were talking about until we got enough calls to realize what they were seeing were the stars of the night sky.
Those strange lights may not mean much to us now, but what's above is directly responsible for us being here today. The road to civilization began when prehistoric people looked to the skies and learnt the concept of time.
It's hard to imagine anybody keeping track of time.
without using the sky as the fundamental reference. You see the seasons shifting with the appearances and disappearances of stars and with the migration of the sun on the horizon and its changing angle at the height of day. All of these things were probably so apparent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago, that they've just been ingrained as a human habit for keeping track of time.
There were many cycles the ancients could study. The sun, day by day, started with sunrise and ended with sunset. But another and even more important cycle was the moon.
The nice thing about the moon is it changes every day. It moves in its position and it changes its appearance. It's bright, it's fairly large in the sky. You can't miss it.
And you can't miss the way it changes from night to night. Sometimes it's a razor-thin sliver, while other times it's a bright, shining disk. We all know that the appearance of the moon changes, but why?
So why does the moon go through phases every month? Well, the answer has everything to do with the position of the moon as it orbits the Earth, illuminated by the sun. So here we see the moon located between the Earth and the sun, and it's the back side of the moon that's illuminated by the sun, so the side you see at the Earth is dark. We call this phase a new moon. But as the moon orbits the Earth, the side that's illuminated comes into your view. The little sliver of light that you can see now gives this moon a crescent phase. And then as the moon orbits the Earth a little bit farther, now the hemisphere that's illuminated is half seen by you at the Earth. We call this a quarter moon. And then finally, as the moon orbits the Earth yet farther, now you can see the fully illuminated hemisphere of the moon, and of course we call that a full moon.
Nowadays, our calendars tell us when there's a new month. But the word month comes from the moon cycle.
The time it takes the moon to complete a cycle around the sky is about 27 days. That, if you look at it, is close to 28, which is the number 7 multiplied by 4. So the lunar cycle actually gives rise to what we would call a month of 4 weeks of 7 days. This is a really obvious kind of pattern we could draw out of the sky.
You have something that allows you to count days one after another and bundle them in sets. That's actually the very core of timekeeping.
Having neat little bundles of time allowed our ancestors to begin noticing patterns or significant events that happened at certain times over the moon cycles.
One of the things about humans is that we are pattern-seeking beasts. We see one thing and then something else happens and we say, oh, when that happens, this always happens after it.
The moon cycle gave the ancients a way to track a small amount of time, the month. But then they began to notice longer patterns, like the seasons. They saw how star formations and alignments moved, and they could time these movements with seasonal changes.
We recognize certain collections of stars that would be up some time of year, say just before the weather got warm and food became plentiful, and other stars that were harbingers of winter when food was going to be scarce.
There are constellations that come up like Orion, and when you start to see that, hey, winter is coming. So the seasons can be tied to the stars.
The ancients played connect the dots with the stars, forming images we now call constellations.
I'm going to create some random stars on our sky back here with this paint gun, and we'll create some constellations together. Now let's connect some dots. Human beings have a desire to impose order over randomness. For instance, here I see a human figure. The ancients also populated the sky with objects that were important to them, livestock or animals. Important to me is my SUV. Now, you may see something different in my stars than I did, but that's okay. There's no limit to human creativity. Regardless, we're both trying to do the same thing, impose order on chaos.
It was studying these constellations as they moved throughout the sky that allowed the ancients to track the seasons. So why did different stars appear in the sky as the seasons change? We make a complete orbit around the Sun in a year, just over 365 days. But both the appearance of certain stars and the seasons have everything to do with the tilt of the Earth. Our planet spins around on an axis that's offset by about 24 degrees. During the summer, the axis is angled towards the Sun. More sunlight means hotter temperatures, and it also means we get a certain view of the sky. But as Earth continues in its orbit, the axis tilts away from the Sun. That's what gives us winter and a different view of the sky. This cycle proceeds like clockwork, which is what made it so handy to our ancestors.
Developing the concept of seasons by looking at the patterns of the stars puts you more in tune with your environment and allows you to plan for your hunting and gathering and all the other activities you need to survive.
The ability to predict changes in the environment meant our ancestors could adapt. By adapting, they thrived.
This is a fundamental thing to allow a group of individuals to go from being subject to the whims of the environment to being able to build up a culture and a civilization that uses these changes to their own advantage.
With the ability to time major cycles, the ancients gained power over their environment. And this power led them to build some of the most amazing monuments in the history of mankind.